3, 2, 1, end of test. Skiing with a go.
Well, hello there, and welcome to another edition of Warbird Wednesday. My name is Fred Bell. I am the Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum, and today we're moving into, I would say, kind of the final chapter of flying boats. We're dealing with the super heavies, and of course we dealt with the Hughes last week, which was, I would say, is the super heavy, kind of the Godzilla of the flying boats. That was the biggest one. And it's interesting, I can't go into it here, but there is a story. I got a call from somebody who has intimate knowledge of the flying boat, who has told me a story the other day that if it is true, and I'm going to figure out how to work this into the channel, so I'll pique your interest. If it's true, it will literally blow your mind. If it's true. So at some point, without attribution, because we don't want to get the author or the person who told me this in trouble, but it was interesting. Sometimes these videos spark different interests, and in this case, I had somebody come forward who claims they have first-person knowledge about some things that went on with that flying boat that I have never seen or in the history books. So we'll work that in on maybe a revisit video. But today we're talking about really kind of one of the other big kids on the block, the Martin, the JRM Mars. Now you could see this, you know, and look at this thing. I mean, it is enormous. I mean, I'm going to throw up a plan view. Greg can throw up a plan view. Now this was, and I've said it numerous times, the philosophy at the time was try to get these things so big because they could move troops and cargo and stuff like that, and it was the premise for all these super heavies that they could get them out into the Pacific or the Atlantic or wherever they needed them, no runway, you could figure out how to offload the stuff, bada bing, bada boom, and you got yourself an army. Well, all of these aircraft, and I want to say all, and you can prove me wrong, but in the comment section, but I don't think that any of the super heavies, and I'm talking about Germans as well, any of the Axis or Allied aircraft ever really lived up to their full potential for two reasons. On the American side and the Allied side, they got so successful that they just didn't need them. And on the Axis side, the complete opposite. They lost air superiority, and when you have these big, heavy aircraft in the air, whether it's those big gliders that the Germans were using or the BV aircraft, you couldn't protect them. There was no way to protect them. And the numerical superiority of the Allies completely negated any air cover that any of the Axis folks would give them. And at the end of the day, they were just sitting ducks. Now, of course, my Sofrosini assistant, I kind of butchered that one, Kevin, has done me up in, this looks like a snakehead. I can't really say it any other way. It is another incredibly uncomfortable hat, but part of the deal. So I'm going to take that thing off, and I'm going to shoot for that side over there. Oh, look at that. Kevin did a good job. Now, the Mars first flight was in 1942. Hold on to that date because of what I just told you previously. It was introduced in 1943. Now, the interesting thing about it was they were not really retired until 1956 in military service. These super heavy aircraft, this one actually had, I think, of all of the super heavies, the longest career to get out to 1956. Extremely low build rate. Extremely low build rate of 7. Now, what had happened with Martin is they scaled up the PBM Mariner. You remember the Mariner. They scaled it up into the XPBM2-1. And the Navy was satisfied and ordered 20 of them. Now, 1942, they ordered 20 of these things, okay? So war progresses, like what we talked about, and what happens? We have another aircraft in 1945, because remember, they also knew by that time, let's say just even at the start of 1945, that they were winning the war. And so a lot of these lines, they started to slow down and scale down. But when you do that and you build this type of equipment, what are you doing on top of that? You're building spares, because they never just build, you know, one aileron or one elevator or whatever. They build, because the aircraft could be damaged. They don't build a ton of them, but they're also building a lot of spares. And so by the time that all got done, what happened? Kevin? The war was over. So the Navy went back and said, remember and there were different variants of this aircraft. So I'm not going to get into the variants, but there were a couple of different variants. But the Navy came back and said, the 7 that are on the production line will complete, will push out to the fleet, but the other 13, and that's what shall they say, is that. So that meant that there was a very low build rate of the airplane, only 7 aircraft. Now, accidents and things like that took their toll on the fleet over time, but the aircraft continued to move a ton of cargo and people and everything else for the Navy. That's why I'm saying it flew as long as it did, because it really did. If you wanted to say the Hughes flying boat was a proof of concept, this was a little smaller aircraft, but not by much. But this was a functioning proof of concept. In other words, not only did they say, okay, it's going to do what it's going to do, but it actually was successful. It was a good design. Martin did really good work. But by the end of 1956, they had been retired, and the last aircraft, in terms of, to give you a time frame, the last aircraft came off the line in 1947. So they, in terms of military aircraft, they were babies. They were barely broken in. Now, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to salute where this aircraft went, because there are ingenious people that after the war that were visionaries. And we talked about people being dreamers in the last one. I want to salute today all of the visionaries that saved this equipment and used it for another purpose and repurposed it. Kevin, did you know that most of the aircraft, or the pond aircraft in our collection, were firebombers? And what saved, that's of the pond aircraft, not of the 75 aircraft that we have, but the original pond aircraft, many were firebombers. And what ended up happening was these firebombing companies, which I don't have permission to use any names, but these companies had the vision to be, and also, what were they? They were cheap, because the military was scrapping them. So they eventually all made their way over into firebombing activities. And one of the things we talk about now, World War II aircraft, many of these airplanes would have gone to the scrapper's torch if they hadn't been firebombers. So I'm going to salute all of those visionary firebomber folks, which, who says that that's what they set out to do, that I'm going to, save rare airplanes, or I doubt there was anything that was that altruistic. I think it was tool for a use, and it was inexpensive, but the byproduct of that was we have many, many more World War II airplanes that would not have survived if it hadn't been for these firebomber outfits. Now, we're going to salute them today with organic and stevia free. That's interesting. I've never seen a statement like that. It's grapefruit. Vina, the smarter choice. Brilliant from brain to belly. Okay, we're going to see about that. There are some trace minerals. There are some prebiotics. You remember last time, Greg, and this is on the post, Greg pointed out that there may be active ingredients from culture. In other words, basically, you're feeding me something that has biomicrobes in it. Who knows? I'm looking for that this time. I don't see anything in this is still alive. So that's actually pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and pop this. Not much fizz there. All right, so to all of you firebomber companies and the visionaries that saved a lot of these aircraft from the scrapper's torch, we salute you. Oh. Wow. Wow. I drank too much of that. I broke my own roll. Oh, if there's a way to see my toes curl, it tastes like cold vinegar. It tastes exactly like vinegar. All right, we're going to do mandatory second sip as I try not to hurl my cookies. Oh, Kevin, you have met Greg's mandate of serving me something that literally I took one swig of that and nearly passed out. That is absolutely vile. I'm going to try to get through the, it's like, try to get through the video. So the aircraft, by the time they went into retirement with the Navy, had pretty much, they were brand new, and the Navy, when they scrap aircraft like this, they scrap everything. What they'll do is go through and scrap all the spares, anything. If there's anything unique about the engines and the engines that are trailing with the aircraft, they'll scrap that. Everything goes to the torch. Because at that time, you can't do it anymore out of AMARG in Arizona, which is Tucson, where all the military aircraft go. But at that time, you could go over there, and if you wanted to buy 20 B-17s or whatever, you could do that. And if you said, hey, well, I need, 20 or 30 1820 or 1830 or 2800 or 2600 engines for whatever aircraft you're operating, hey, sign you up. They give you as much. You can't do that anymore. Nothing comes out of the boneyard intact anymore unless it's going to like a third-party military or it's a military sale. But at that time, you could take all the spares, and that's exactly what happened. So these aircraft then went through heavy modifications of surviving aircraft because there's a few of them that have been lost in accidents. So I think about that time we were down to 4, and so they modified them, and then they became, because of their lifting capacity, massive firebombers. And they flew firebomber circuit for some time, but just because of their sheer size and operability, eventually they started to wane down. And then around the they changed hands, or early 2000s, the aircraft were pretty much done by about, mid 2006, 2007. They just, for various reasons, newer equipment, you name it, they were going by the wayside. So what's eventually going to happen with these aircraft is, I believe one is going to end up in a museum in Canada, and one is going to end up at a museum in the United States. That's where I think. If I were a betting man, I'd say one of them will end up at Pima because they have an enormous backyard, good place for it. We don't have that kind of room to house something here, which is too bad, because it would sure be fun to have one of these, but it's just simply not practical. And I think one of them will end up in a museum in Canada. And thank goodness, by the way, to the companies that are doing that and to the museums that are going to save them, because how many in this series have we gone through that there is no survivors? They're all gone, especially on the Axis side, which we can understand they got completely blown out at the end of the war. But it looks like 2 of this type will go on and will stay in the museum circuit, and hopefully you'll be able to tour one of them soon, and that would be a great thing. So that is the epitaph of the JRM Mars aircraft. Now, if you want to amaze your friends, I saw these things the first time and I thought they were real. These are great. They're instrument cup holders. Jason hand paints these. No, he doesn't. And if you want one of these, click on the link. He will gladly go down and make these for you and then ship them out. At least the shipping out part is true. Also, we cannot do this. We're in Flying Tiger corner over here, and we have got behind me all kinds of cool Flying Tiger memorabilia. If you come to the museum, this is definitely a little cove that you should come. There's a lot of great stuff here. We can't do that without the shekels. So if you can go to the contribution link and click on that link and donate a few bucks, we would appreciate it. Our YouTube channel has been growing by leaps and bounds. And so if you come across us on YouTube and you like one take, kind of tough edit, through it, shaky cam, Warbird videos, that's us. We're not, there are a lot of really good slick productions out there. I am not going to make any claims that we're that, but I do think we try to come up with some fun stuff. And if you like that, give us a subscription, give us a comment. We always like to talk to you. A lot of folks talk to us on the various social media channels. We answer back. We try to. We appreciate that. If you come across us on Facebook, give us the same thing. Give us a like. Give us a comment. If you're teaching those kiddos at home, the education links are all in the video description, and you can get those education guides for free, which is a very good thing. My name is Fred Bell. I am the Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
3, 2, 1, end of test. Team with a go.
Day, all my fears have gone away. I guess this means I'm here to stay. Yeah, I'm ready to fly, ready to fly. Wasn't long ago I shook at the thought of being hooked. But ever since I wrote my book, I'm ready to fly, ready to fly. Come along and join us, we can plug you in a simulator. We'll teach you how to dance and be the perfect imitator. We'll give away all your music to the operator. We were born with the light to shine, and we can do it in our lifetime. And then we get the balance right. Oh, we're riding on the satellite. The satellite. Down the park, saw them hitting the beat. The sound that emanated, it was really sweet. Told them of a shy young man bitten twice, and gave a little old school good advice. Pretending's not the thing, got to be yourself. Honesty, integrity, happiness and health. Bending to the needs of others ain't the way. Be true to yourself and let the music play. Come along and join us, we can plug you in a simulator. We'll teach you how to dance and be the perfect imitator.